A shadow loomed inside the van, its engine idling in the quiet dusk of Willow Park. A young girl, unaware, stepped closer, her laughter echoing through the empty street. But Max, a loyal canine, froze. His piercing bark shattered the silence, sensing a danger no one else could see. His owner, a weary single mother, hesitated, her heart pounding as Max's instincts screamed of a hidden threat. What chilling secret lay behind the wheel, waiting to change their lives forever? Subscribe to Canine Miracle Stories. Drop your location in the comments and like or share to uncover the truth. Will Max's bravery save the day? Willow Creek was a slice of suburban serenity, where the days unfolded with the predictability of a metronome. Its streets, lined with white picket fences and manicured lawns, glowed under the soft light of summer evenings. Towering oaks cast long shadows, their leaves rustling in the breeze, while the faint scent of jasmine and freshly cut grass hung in the air. At the center of it all was Willow Park, a sprawling green oasis where the community came alive. Children raced through sprinklers, their laughter mingling with the rhythmic thud of joggers' sneakers on winding paths. Dogs bounded after frisbees, and elderly couples sat by the pond, tossing crumbs to ducks that glided across the water. The park's dogwoods bloomed in bursts of pink and white, and at dusk, the sky burned with hues of orange and purple, casting a warm glow over the scene. Sarah's home, a modest single-story bungalow 2 blocks away, was a quiet anchor in this world. Its faded blue shutters and flower boxes gave it a charm that belied the chaos of her daily life. Inside, the air held traces of lavender candles and coffee, a testament to late nights and early mornings. The walls, adorned with Lily's crayon drawings and a few framed photos, told the story of a family piecing itself together. Sarah, at 36, was a woman forged by resilience. Her auburn hair, often pulled into a messy bun, framed a face where exhaustion and determination coexisted. As a night shift nurse, her life was a blur of hospital corridors, beeping monitors, and hurried meals. She'd moved to Willow Creek 3 years ago, fleeing the wreckage of a divorce that had left her financially and emotionally drained. The small town, with its friendly neighbors and quiet streets, promised a fresh start for her and her daughter. Sarah clung to that promise, even as the weight of bills and long hours pressed against her. Her hazel eyes, though tired, lit up when she spoke to Lily, her reason for pushing forward. She'd learned to navigate life alone, her trust in others worn thin by betrayal. But Willow Creek's warmth was beginning to chip away at her walls. Neighbors dropped off homemade pies or waved from their porches. And Sarah, though guarded, felt the stirrings of belonging. Her evenings in the park with Lily and Max were her escape, a fleeting moment of peace in a world that rarely slowed. Down Lily was the heartbeat of their home. At 9 years old, she carried a spark that could light up the darkest days. Her chestnut curls bounced as she darted through the house, her voice a cascade of questions about constellations, fossils, and weather clouds had names. She'd inherited her mother's stubborn spirit, but none of her caution, her curiosity pulling her toward every adventure. Lily loved their evening walks to Willow Park, where she'd race ahead, her sneakers kicking up dust as she chased fireflies or climbed the gnarled oak by the pond. The park was her kingdom, a place where she could swing until her laughter echoed, or weave daisy chains to drape over Max's neck. Sarah watched her with a fierce protectiveness, knowing how fragile their little world was. Lily's joy was a reminder of what Sarah fought for, but it also deepened her fear of losing the stability she'd worked so hard to build. The park, with its familiar faces and predictable rhythms, felt like a shield against the uncertainties of their past. Max, their German shepherd, was more than a pet. He was their guardian, their anchor. Adopted 2 years ago from a local shelter, he'd been a retired canine, trained to detect threats with a precision that lingered in his every movement. His black and tan coat gleamed under the sun, and his broad shoulders moved with a quiet power. that turned heads. Sarah had been drawn to him instantly, his deep brown eyes holding a depth that seemed to understand her struggles. The shelter staff had warned her about his intensity. Max was no ordinary dog. His years with the police leaving him with instincts too sharp for a typical pet. But to Sarah, he was a gift. He'd lie at her feet during sleepless nights, his warmth easing the ache of loneliness. With Lily, he was a gentle giant, letting her drape him in blankets or tug at his ears. But his eyes never strayed far, always watching, always protecting. His presence filled their home with a sense of security, a silent promise that they weren't alone. Max's training showed in the smallest details. On their walks through Willow Park, he moved with purpose, his ears swiveling at every rustle, his nose testing the air for scents only he could read. Neighbors admired his discipline, often stopping to pet him or ask about his past. But Sarah noticed how he never fully relaxed around strangers. His loyalty to her and Lily was unwavering. A bond forged through countless quiet moments, nights when Sarah cried silently, or afternoons when Lily's laughter filled the backyard. In the park, Max stayed close, his leash loose but his body alert, positioning himself between them and the world. The park itself was a microcosm of Willow Creek's charm: teenagers on skateboards, families picnicking under the trees, and dogs racing across the grass. Sarah loved the routine, the way it tethered them to the community. But lately, a subtle unease had begun to creep in, a shadow that threatened to disrupt their fragile peace. It started with a white van, its paint chipped and windows tinted to an impenetrable black. It appeared one evening, parked under a sagging willow near the park's entrance, its engine idling longer than seemed necessary. Sarah noticed it again a few days later, closer to the playground where Lily loved to swing. She told herself it was nothing, a delivery driver, maybe, or a utility worker, but the van's presence felt wrong, like a crack in the neighborhood's perfect facade. Max sensed it too. His hackles would rise as they passed, his body stiffening, a low growl rumbling in his throat. Sarah tried to dismiss her unease, chalking it up to exhaustion or paranoia, but Max's reactions were harder to ignore. His training had taught him to detect threats invisible to the human eye, and now, in the heart of their peaceful neighborhood, that instinct stirred. The van's irregular appearances, always at dusk, gnawed at her, a quiet warning that something was out of place. The rhythm of Willow Creek's summer evenings carried on, but a quiet discord had begun to weave through Sarah's world. The white van, with its chipped paint and darkened windows, was no longer a fleeting oddity. It started appearing almost daily, its presence as persistent as the cicadas' hum. One evening, as Sarah and Lily walked through Willow Park, the van was parked near the playground, its engine idling softly under the lengthening shadows of the dogwoods. The next day, it lingered closer to the park's entrance, half hidden by a cluster of pines, its stillness unsettling against the backdrop of children's laughter and barking dogs. Sarah's stomach tightened each time she saw it, the van's tinted windows reflecting the fading sunlight like unblinking eyes. She tried to rationalize a repairman, a lost driver, but the van's irregular yet deliberate appearances felt like a puzzle with missing pieces. On one walk, it was gone by the time they looped back, only to reappear the next evening. Parked just off the path, Lily loved to skip along. Its movements were unpredictable, yet calculated, as if tracking their routine. Max's instincts, honed by his canine training, sharpened with each sighting. During their walks, his ears would swivel toward the van, his body tensing as if braced for action. Once, as they passed within 20 feet of it, Max stopped dead, his hackles rising in a ridge along his spine. A low growl rumbled deep in his chest, his brown eyes locked on the van's darkened windows. Sarah tugged his leash gently, urging him forward, but Max resisted, his nose twitching as he caught a scent that didn't belong, something sharp, chemical, foreign to the park's familiar mix of grass and pine. His gaze didn't waver, even as Lily skipped ahead, oblivious, her ponytail bouncing with each step. Another evening, Max pulled toward the van, his muscles taut, forcing Sarah to plant her feet to hold him back. His intensity unnerved her, stirring memories of the shelter staff's warnings about his ability to detect danger others missed. Each growl, each rigid stance, felt like a warning she couldn't fully decipher. Sarah's unease grew with every walk, a knot of anxiety tightening. In her chest, she began noticing details she'd overlooked before. The van's license plate, smudged with dirt, was unreadable. Its engine would cut off abruptly when she glanced too long, as if aware of her attention. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she saw the van parked near her street, just beyond the park's boundary, its silhouette stark against the twilight. Her heart thudded as she hurried Lily past, her hand gripping Max's leash until her knuckles whitened. She told herself she was overreacting. That exhaustion from her night shifts was clouding her judgment, but Max's reactions were harder to dismiss. At home, she'd catch herself peering through the curtains, half expecting to see the van idling outside. Sleep became elusive, her mind replaying Max's growls, the van's silent presence. She hadn't told Lily, not wanting to dim her daughter's carefree spirit, but she began keeping her closer during walks, her eyes scanning the park for anything out of place. The weight of protecting Lily alone felt heavier each day, and Max's alertness was both a comfort and a warning. Willow Creek, however, seemed untouched by the shadow creeping into Sarah's world. The park buzzed with its usual energy: teenagers weaving through on skateboards, families spreading picnic blankets, dogs chasing frisbees across the grass. Neighbors waved as they passed, their smiles warm and untroubled, oblivious to the van that lingered like a stain on the edge of their haven. Sarah envied their ease, their ability to see the park as nothing more than a place of joy. Once, she overheard a neighbor mention a new delivery guy in a white van. But the comment was casual, dismissed with a shrug. She wanted to ask more, to warn someone, but doubt held her back. What could she say without sounding paranoid? The park's normalcy felt like a cruel contrast to her growing fear, isolating her as she wrestled with questions she couldn't answer. Max, though, didn't waver. His focus on the van grew sharper, his protective stance more pronounced, as if he alone understood the threat lurking beneath the surface. The tension reached a new pitch one humid evening as storm clouds gathered overhead. Sarah, Lily, and Max were halfway through their usual loop when the van appeared again. This time parked at an angle near the playground's edge, its engine off but its presence heavy. Max froze, his growl louder than before, his body low as if ready to lunge. Sarah's pulse quickened as she followed his gaze. For a moment, she thought she saw movement inside the van, a flicker of shadow behind the tinted glass. Too quick to be sure. Max's ears flattened, his nose twitching as he caught that same sharp chemical scent, now stronger, carried on the breeze. Sarah's hand tightened on Lily's shoulder, pulling her closer. The park was quieter than usual, the approaching storm sending most families home, leaving the path eerily empty. As they turned to leave, a faint sound came from the van. Low, metallic clank, like something shifting inside. Max's head snapped toward it, his growl turning into a sharp bark that echoed through the park. Sarah's heart pounded as she hurried Lily away. But one question burned in her mind. What was hiding in that van, and why was it following them? The air in Willow Park grew thick with the weight of an approaching storm, the sky a bruised purple. As thunder rumbled in the distance, Sarah's heart raced as she guided Lily along the familiar path, her eyes darting to the shadows where the white van had become a near-constant presence. Tonight, it was closer than ever, parked just beyond. The playground's edge, its darkened windows gleaming under a flickering street lamp. Lily, oblivious, tugged at Sarah's hand, eager to chase a stray firefly that danced across the grass. Max, however, was a coiled spring, his ears pinned back, his body low as he stared at the van. His low growl had escalated into something primal, a warning that cut through the evening's quiet. Sarah's stomach churned. She'd seen the van too many times now, its presence no longer dismissible as coincidence. As Lily skipped a few steps ahead, the van's engine roared to life, its headlights slicing through the dusk. Sarah froze, her breath catching as the vehicle inched forward, toward the path where Lily stood, alone and exposed. Max's instincts ignited in an instant. With a force that snapped his leash taut, he lunged forward, his powerful frame breaking free of Sarah's grip. His bark exploded, sharp and relentless, echoing across the park like a siren. Sarah stumbled, calling out to Lily, who turned, her eyes wide with confusion as the van's tires crunched against the gravel, creeping closer. Max didn't hesitate. His training as a canine surged to the surface, every muscle honed for this moment. He bolted toward Lily, positioning himself between her and the van, his teeth bared, his growl a thunderous challenge. The van lurched to a stop, its headlights bathing Max in a harsh glow, but he stood his ground, unyielding, his eyes locked on the unseen driver. Sarah sprinted to Lily, scooping her into her arms, her heart hammering as Max's barks grew fiercer, each one a demand. For the threat to retreat, the park, usually alive with chatter, was eerily silent. The few remaining families frozen, watching the scene unfold. Then the van's door creaked open and the truth began to unravel. A figure emerged tall, cloaked in a dark jacket, his face obscured by a hood. Max's barks intensified, his body low and ready to strike, but the figure hesitated, clearly startled by the dog's ferocity. Sarah clutched Lily tighter, her mind racing with terror and questions. Max's nose twitched, catching that same sharp chemical scent he'd detected before, now overwhelming, spilling from the van's open door. In a flash, Max lunged, not at the figure, but toward the van's interior, his paws scraping against the metal frame. A metallic clatter rang out as something fell, a small, unmarked canister rolling into the grass, its contents glinting faintly in the dim light. Sarah's breath caught as she realized what Max had uncovered. The van wasn't just a threat, was a rolling danger, carrying something illicit, something meant to harm. The figure cursed under his breath, scrambling back into the driver's seat. But Max's relentless barking kept him pinned, his plan unraveling under the canine's unyielding gaze. The moment hung in a fragile balance, every second charged with raw emotion. Sarah's fear for Lily mingled with awe at Max's courage, her chest tight with the realization that his instincts had saved them from an unthinkable fate. Max stood like a sentinel, his powerful frame unwavering, his barks a defiant shield between his family and the danger. The figure in the van hesitated, his hands gripping the wheel. But Max's ferocity was unrelenting, his training a force of nature that no threat could outmatch. Sarah's eyes stung with tears as she held Lily close, the girl's small frame trembling against her. The park's stillness amplified the intensity Max's barks, the van's idling engine, the distant roll of thunderall converging in a crescendo of suspense. The figure slammed the van's door shut, the engine roaring as it peeled away, tires screeching against the pavement. Max chased it a few steps, his barks echoing into the night, a final warning to the retreating threat as the van's taillights vanished into the darkness. Sarah sank to her knees, Lily still in her arms, her heart pounding with a mix of relief and disbelief. Max turned back, his eyes softening as he trotted to them, his tail low but his presence steady. He pressed his nose against Lily's hand, as if assuring her the danger was gone. Sarah's hands shook as she stroked his fur, her gratitude overwhelming. The canister lay in the grass, a silent testament to the secret Max had exposed a secret that could have shattered their world. The storm clouds overhead broke, a light rain beginning to fall, washing over the park like a cleansing breath. But one question lingered, sharp and urgent. As Sarah looked into Max's steady eyes, what would have happened if he hadn't acted? And what scars would this night leave behind? If Max's heroic act left you breathless, don't miss more incredible K9 stories. Hit that subscribe button for K9 Miracle Stories to join our pack and never miss a tale of bravery. Like this video, share it with friends, and drop a comment below. Tell us what you'd do if Max was your hero. Your support keeps these stories alive, so subscribe now and be part of our journey.